Yeah, let's start. Good morning, everyone. As usual, we'll start with the current affairs topics for KS prelims and IAS preparations. These are basically the current affairs topics which are happened in the month of April, right? So let me share the screen quickly. Share. Right, let's get into our dashboard. I hope I'm audible, right? Yeah. Am I audible? Okay, thanks, Lakshmi. Yes, thank you. So let's proceed with this. Today's most important topic in terms of current affairs and basics. So I wanted to know, like, if what's the status in the polity side? Is the constitution fundamental rights is completed? Can you help me in the chat? I want to understand the sense of it. To go how much deep I can go in this current affairs topic. So any idea if it's fundamental rights are covered in polity? Lakshman or Ganesh, any idea? I see few of the political classes are going on. I'm not sure if constitutional fundamental rights are covered or not. Let me type. Okay, good. So I might not have. I'll see. I'll not go into much depth in that case. Right. Let's get into the what happened in terms of the constitution. Actually, right. Government. It's part of the paper two, general studies. Okay. So actually, this topic can also be part of this constitutional amendments under part paper three, general studies two. But the reason why I didn't put the news or the current affairs on the constitution as part of this is it is explicitly mentioned as amendments, and it was these are the news basically based on the Supreme Court judgments interpretation of constitution. So I felt it is safe to put under paper 2, General Studies 1, under section 2, Social and Political Perspective. Section 1 is history, right? For General Studies 1. Section 2 is Social and Political Perspective. And section 3 is Indian economy. In section 2, government and political systems. So, how are they managing this? I just want to add there. So this is most important topic in terms of understanding of the backward classes reservations, which is important in terms of mains. We have seen many questions which are directly or indirectly related to understanding of the student with respect to reservations. Because reservation is one such topic where there are many biases, right? Few are for, arguably few are against, but what is more important is to understand is reservation is a very sensitive topic to discuss in any of the exams, be it prelims, mains, or the interviews. So when it comes to prelims, it will be very much in the factual sense, right? So we'll cover that. Which comes to mains, it's about you opinion based, like how do you interpret reservations of SC/ST, OBC, backward classes, and these kind of classes. The safe way is to understand the history of reservations, which happened since 1950s. Okay. So the reservation concept is there till date. It's being modified. It's being challenged in Supreme Court. Fine, and it's been many people are forming opinions, but since the frame of constitutional framework, we are having this continuous updates on reservation. So it's very important to understand the contextual sense of the history behind the reservations. So we'll talk about ST reservation latest news update and a little bit of appointment to Central Vigilance Commission. Fine. So now coming to the ST reservations. Okay, so what is about this ST reservations? So recently there was a government came up with this policy that to give 100% reservations for teachers in scheduled areas. Mind you, scheduled areas or areas mentioned in constitutional schedules. Right? There are many scheduled areas, Assam, like Madhya Pradesh, fine. So we just go through this. I think this will be covered in my political classes, but I don't want to get deep into that. So what I want to say is there's 100% scheduled tribe reservation was proposed for teachers post in scheduled areas. However, Supreme Court strike this, right? Provisional unconstitutional. Why unconstitutional? Yes, it helps the scheduled tribes to get jobs and increase their economic status, but again, it is against the core values of our constitution. For example, it is highly discriminatory and impermissible. Right? So discriminatory not in the general sense. Like usually we know SC, STs are discriminated, but it's not done so. Now in this case, the general caste or what are general class people are discriminated. If 100% reservations provided, so what happens to other general category people? And for instance, what happens to ST and OBC in this case? Even SCs and OBCs are also deprived along with general classes. So hence Supreme Court striked out and also gave the case of what? Gave the case of Indra Sani's judgment caps 50%. So in Indra Sani judgment in 1993, there was Supreme Court judgment was made, nine court Supreme bench was made, and it was told, it specifically mentioned that in any reservation in any field cannot cross 50% cap. Of course, there can be exceptions. I will talk about exceptions later on. But yes, 50% reservation is the max as per Supreme Court mandate to have reservation in any of the government posts. So wanted to know, is this case covered in your political classes? If anyone can type in the chat yes or no, it will be very helpful so that I'll get an idea like how deep I can go into the history of this case. Any can I know like I'm expecting some. Did yes, so have you heard of this case? If yes, has the history of this case been covered? Okay, thanks, Lakshmi. I think let's get deeper into this case. Why deeper? Because it is very, very important from every aspect, right? So as I said, reservation is a very sensitive topic and we need to know how to handle sensitive topic. The best way to handle sensitive topic is to rely on government judgment, Supreme Court judgment. So you don't have to really give your opinions, right? Fall back on government opinions, fall back on Supreme Court judgments. When it's anything with respect to reservation, anything with respect to religion, right? Especially religion, Islamic world religion, Muslim religions, right? So anything in those respects, try to get your answers from the history perspective, which is safe and it is a very good approach. Even to an extent, it influences your own opinion, right? We all have few certain biases against our religion, against our caste, but that has a negative influence in this preparation journey. So even understanding the history also tries to change your own mindset, right? Let's see, we can experience this. Okay, let's say historical events with respect to class reservations. Right? First of all, uh, so first of all, reservations is an acceptable norm, okay, in by constitutional makers, right? So we have article as part of the fundamental rights, part 3 of the fundamental rights, we have Article 15, right, and Article 16, where about reservations it's spoken about, or about cash it is spoken about specifically. So as we know, Article 15 is about, right, discrimination, right? So temple entry or use of public places, these kind of discrimination is prohibited as per Article 15. So state should ensure that such discrimination doesn't exist, right? But however, it has an exception in Article 15.4 that there can be certain discriminations can be there in favor of women and who? Backward classes. Or that is more suitably scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, etc. It means state can make policies for the upliftment of women, for the upliftment of SC/STs as per Article 15. Anyway, Article 15 is not the question here. I'll come to why I'm talking about Article 15. So, but main question is about Article 16. So this question is about Article 16, fundamental rights, which talks about government jobs, be it state government, central government, or some corporates as part of Central Act, or some companies which are directly controlled by companies. Government. So all these places, there can be a reservation applied. So that is being provided in Article 16.1, Clause 1. And Article 16, Clause 4, which is very specific to our interest, mentions that state government or sorry, central government through an act or some through a policy or through an order, anything can give reservations for the backward classes. Now, the whole contention on this was the backward classes mentioned. If anyone sees the Article 16.4 explicitly, the backward classes is not elaborately explained by our constitution makers as it is explained in Article 15.4. Article 15.4 is specifically mentioned scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, but in it's Article 15.4 specifically mentioned scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, which are socially and educationally backward. Mind you, keep focus on these words, socially and educationally. So you have to read between the lines. What is read between the lines? We should read what is not written in the lines also, right? What is not written there? Economically backward. So then Article 15.4 has not mentioned about economically backwardness. So, but in Article 16, 164, even it's not even socially and educationally also it's not mentioned. There's no mention of social backwardness, there's no mention of educational backwardness, there's no mention of economical backwardness. It was left to the fancy of the government of the day to interpret, right? So what happened? In 1953, Congress government established I think, Kakar committee or something, Kakar committee to elaborate on this issue. Elaborate in the sense what? Like to come up with an elaborative list of people who are belonging to the backward caste and also define what is backward caste. Sorry, backward classes, not caste, backward classes. So now, in 1953, they come up with an elaborate list. Kakar community came like it was the first backward class committee. Right? They came up with 2,000 odd castes in India, and they also came up with their own classification criteria for classifying someone as backward. But again, the government of the day did not agree to it because it was based on backward castes, other backward castes, which was very huge in numbers. And it was expected that that might cause political turmoil, right? Because imagine, right, in your village on those days, there were reasonable influence of higher caste people. Who are higher caste people then? Agriculture was central. Then agriculture was the main occupation then in the whole of India, right? And the agriculture lands were controlled by whom? Right? Controlled by the societal higher caste people, right? So in that context, if some government gets these policies in 1950s, like okay, these are the backward class people who can be uplifted, then imagine the turmoil it brings to the society. Turmoil in the sense it brings chaos in the society, because, for instance, backward classes will have opportunity, but still they have to serve the higher classes, right? And there's no education for them. Okay. um, Few might turn rebellious. They might turn to government. Okay, we are getting the government job, and they might turn rebellious, and that might cause many clashes between upper caste and the lower caste. And but the government of the day was not ready for such adventures. So then what happened? That was shut down by government. Right? And what happened in 1970s, 1975, there was emergency declared. Right? Emergency declared. If you know, Indira Gandhi was there in power. Right? She declared emergency. She put down all the opposition leaders into behind the bars. So that really significant impact on the people's mind. And then when the elections happened in 1978, the Janata Party were able to win the power in 1979. In why I'm telling this history means you need to understand like what are the commissions being established. It was a famous UPSC kind of questions. Fine. So in 1975, Janata Party set up a Mandal Commission. This was second backward classes commission. Okay? This is not a first backward, this is a second. You know, first was Thakur. Mandal Commission came up with own recommendations. It gave 3,000 plus castes. Is identified as backward classes. Backward classes. Caste identified as backward classes based on socially and educational criteria. So it took a definition from Article 15.4. Though Article 16.4 didn't mention social and educational, Mandal Commission relied on Article 15.4 to derive the backward classes. That means based on socially and educationally backward. So these people need sufficient representation in government posts. We know that the government posts, like political posts, also significantly influence the upliftment of a particular backward group, right? It is the other thing that once the people from SC, ST, OBC background, once they selected into IAS, IPS officer, they tend to forget where the roots they come from, and they tend to forget the upliftment of the backward class. Why is reservation required? Right? It's not about the government post should be only about intellectuals, and only about intellectuals can do a certain good. Intellectual by itself doesn't mean that they're entitled to do good things to the society, right? It is not true, right? It's simply not true, because it depends on the behavioral aspect, because people might be intelligent and maybe greedy also, right? People might be intelligent and come from, and because of the historical regions, right? If you see, the upper caste are at a higher end of educations, right? Even if you see the forefathers of the upper caste, the Jamindars or be it the Brahminical class, they will be, not that is a general case, but relative case, they are have more educational history. Like their forefathers will also be educated compared to the current generation who belongs to SC, STs or OBCs for that matter. Even there are few SC, STs I know, even their fathers are not educated, even their grandfathers are not educated. So we need to imagine if in such a situation the child grows, how much hardship the child should face to really excel in education, right? And do we not think that such people should get an opportunity to serve in government posts? These are bigger questions, because they are historically deprived, and it makes their right to give that boost from the government for them to compete with those students who have a very rich educational background, right? I'm not telling that all Brahminical class have all rich educational background, but generally for government, it cannot have specific rules and regulations. It has to be some kind of generalizations, right? So in that context, that's how Brahminical class has that ability, or the higher caste has that historical background in education, which helps them to really compete in competitive exhibition, which is the same is deprived for some students from the OBCs or SC/STs. So based on that idea, this is called educationally backward. And as we know, educationally backward is goes hand in hand with socially backward. Socially backward is not what caste systems. So socially backward is caste system means few castes are not or deprived of water resources, access to the wells, right? Few castes are deprived of entering the classrooms, etc. So something like that. So these two are socially hand in hand. And based on these two concepts, socially and educationally backward, the Mandal Commission gave an what suggestion to the government. Okay, based on this criteria, let's say there are 3,000 odd backward caste in India. Let them give 20%, 27% reservation in government posts. But unfortunately, by the time the Janata Party was supposed to give an order on this, at the same time the party lost power and Indira Gandhi came for the second term in 1981. So we know the history. After Indira Gandhi, then Indira Gandhi, I think mid of 1880s, she was unfortunately killed. Then Rajiv Gandhi came to power, and the legacy continued. Somehow, the Congress government was not for this kind of reservation for OBCs. Congress party want less. I think in that understanding, Congress party was more pro to the Muslim community, upliftment of Muslims. That is very important. They were the first party who treated all religions equally. And Congress party historically if this were they backed the upliftment of SC/STs. Coming to the OBC, the Congress party doesn't have that intention for the upliftment of OBCs, particularly in the context of government jobs. Okay. So for their own political reasons, or there may be rational reasons. We don't have to get into what party, what their philosophies and all. It becomes purely political, and we should avoid such topics even in interviews or mains. So why I'm taking Congress party references so that you will have some historical context for you to remember. For example, there might be question in KPSC like Mandal Commission was set up in which something like in 1990s. Then immediately you will understand this history. No. It was Janata Party. We set up the Mandal, and we know Janata Party came only once in power, that is 1979. And you can really relate, right? This party system is where it's very critical there because any policies or laws are actually party driven, right? Even this current government, right, Modi-led government, even this government has their own manifesto of the party. Based on this manifesto only, they'll bring policies. So this is very important to understand our historical context. Fine, let's continue with our story. So 1989, Rajiv Gandhi lost his elections because of, remember, because of this Babri Masjid thing, right? Uh, Babri Masjid happened 1990s, but history dates back to 1986. Right? There was a Shahbanu case happened in 1986, okay, regarding the Muslim women. It was in terms of diverse alumni and all. Let's not get into details. So Rajiv Gandhi got into that trap, and then he lost confidence of the majority Hindu community, and then he has to lose the seat. And then BP Singh government came, Janata Dal Party, and then again Janata Dal came, and then again they backed this Mandal Commission. This time, what happened before losing power, the Janata Dal Party issued an order of 20%, 27% reservation for socially and educationally backward classes or castes of India. But soon there was protest, as Congress party feared. Right? There was massive widespread protest from every corner of the country for obvious reasons, because we know how the protests happen in India. Because We know the half, more than 50-60% of the protests were actually based on self-interest, right? Money play is very huge in any protest, be it in Kashmir, throwing of stones, right? Be it any part of the country, the protests 50 to 60%. If it is a violent protest, and it is surely nearly to 80% is driven by money elements, right? Since the higher caste people don't want to lose their power in government posts, they started instigating protest wild India wide, and the government was simply not able to control these protests. And later, what happened? This when the Supreme Court Bar Council of India also filed a petition in 1980 against this government order. So the five-judge bench of Supreme Court issued a stay on this order. So five-bench judge Supreme Court issued a stay on it. Five-judge means anything with respect to constitution, right? It has to be five-judge plus. Any constitutional matters cannot be dealt with lesser than five judges bench Supreme Court. Right? This is where to understand this. All right. Then what happened? The stay was got, and the reservation was halted again for Janata Dal from the Janata Dal perspective. And in 1991, when the Congress government came to power under Narsim Rao, right? Narsim Rao, in economy, you would have studied about 1991 economic policies, right? LPG scheme, right? Liberalization, privatization. It was all due to Narsim Rao and Manmohan Singh, right? Manmohan Singh as a finance minister. So Narsim Rao came to power, and he took it as a political opportunity, okay? And he changed that mindset of the Congress, like not backing this Mandal Commission report, and he went ahead. He was the first prime minister. And one of the reasons why Narsim Rao is being highly regarded among all parties. He works pure and purely for one is history of working, right. Narsim Rao actually worked pure and for people welfare, and he was one of the few Congress leaders from the south to make it to the top. And one of the leaders in the Congress who was disregarded after he quit the after his position was lost. Uh, we've seen Narsim Roy. Anyone is seen his history, right? The life, what he spent towards the end of the life was very pathetic, and he was in very critical condition. And there was literally no support from any corner he could have possibly imagined. I don't think this kind of treatment to the prime minister is very rare in any country, and it's very unfortunate. For the only reason Narsim Rao was very much pro to the for the people. So that's the reason he was appointed to the very top position. So that's the reason he became more like a leader in 1990s. Okay. So that's in the history of Narsim Rao. But he took this Mandal Commission against the Congress policies, and took he issued an order of 21% reservation. But this time he made sure that it's not only based on socially and educationally, but also economically backward classes. Fine. The element of economic backward class in reservation, the idea came with the Congress government under the leadership of Narsim Rao. And of course, he gave 10% only for socially and educational backwardness, and together it became 37%. So 27% based on economic criteria, that is poor people. 10% is socially educational backward. This was very foresight in nature. I mean, for me, this was very foresightedness, right? Because it is very obvious, right? If economically you're backward, and it means it's very hard. You face very hardship to get educated, and such people deserve the post a reservation because they were deprived of education. Maybe they'll not get right amount of books. For example, rural areas, There might be like this coaching centers, they might not be able to access coaching centers, right? They might not be able to access the right set of books, or they have to walk kilometers and kilometers together to reach to the schools, right? Those are economically backward people. But problem is economic backwardness, right? There is no definite way approach to measure economic backwardness. So imagine, how do you measure economic backwardness, right? Is it like the one who are taxpayers or economically rich? No, right? We know many of the landlords who doesn't pay tax a penny but still are like very very rich. Like, how do you measure? On what basis do you measure economic backwardness? So, for instance, like you might feel, uh, for example, a person, for instance, now, right, a person may be living in the flats with well settled all with fridge, television, ACs, everything. But what if the person loses job in the COVID-19 situation, right? They have to pay so much of EMIs, lakhs together EMIs per month, or thousands together EMI per month. And if they lose the job suddenly, then how will you treat that person? Is it like economically backwardness? Imagine he was economically rich a year ago, and the same family is economically poor this year. How do you categorize this person? Like, do you take like most recent, if there's no income in the most recent like 1 year time, then he's economically poor? We can't say, right? If we make that clause, then imagine a person, maybe a CEO, who has earned like crores of rupees for like 10 years of his service, and in the last year he has lost his job. Will you consider him as economically poor? And there's very very complex scenarios. People become rich, people become poor, and then people who appear to be poor or very rich because they don't report it to the government. There's no proper statistics. So these were the questions asked by the Supreme Court then. They were exact questions asked by the 9 judges Supreme Court. Earlier it was 5 judges, now it became 9 judges, the higher judges Supreme Court. So they asked for show cause notice for government on economic criteria. Then government cannot came up with the economic criteria based on which they can classify the population. Fine. Then then what happens? There was that is the when it came something called Sahni case. Indira Sahni case judgment. Don't worry about who and what. There was some individual or she was an advocate, I think, I'm not sure, who put a case against Union of India government in 1993 against these very policies. It was more like a proactive petition kind of thing. And then what happens? Then Supreme Court took that case, fine, and there was enormous deliberation, like a 9 judge bench was there, right? And they gave uh, this one, what is that, approval. They gave a judgment. See, this is not 100%. First judgment is reservation cannot be more than 50%. Why it cannot be more than 50%? Because, mind you, it is, we have to balance it. One is efficiency of the government system should be sustained, plus we need to give reservation for the deprived classes. So both has to be achieved, right? For that purpose, they made exactly 50%. So 50% is based on merit for general class, which brings in talent, intellectual into the system. Not that the backward classes will not bring in. Again, just it is an understanding. It's uh, just a provision for general class. Also means I mean, it should not. If you make 100% reservation, right, over a period of time, then even the higher upper classes will become backward class. Agreed on. Even upper class representation will be gone. In again, we will be in the same situation, but in the reverse way. So to avoid such complications, 50% is general, 50% is reservations. Earlier, how much it was? Nasim Rao, 37%, but it was made furthermore. But they made some important thing. First of all, they agreed to the Mandal Commission report, and they said it cannot be questioned. Whatever the Mandal Commission come up with the list of backward castes are legitimate. That means Supreme Court agreed that backward classes can be categorized based on socially and educational backward, because based on this criteria only they can deduce that their representation in government jobs is at minimum, right? There was earlier in 1915 there was no representation of OBCs and SC/STs. No means very minimum representation in government jobs. So Supreme Court agreed to this. Okay, this is a valid criteria. But Supreme Court also said that as Mandal Commission has referred to Articles 15, 14, 15 clause 4, fine, backward classes should be solely made on social educational backward. That part Supreme Court didn't agree. Okay, Supreme Court actually took some of the input from Nasim Rao government also. He told, okay, apart from socially and educationally backward, we should not also add a clause of creamy layer. Okay, creamy layer. They said, let's not try to identify who is poor. Let's identify the other way around, who is rich, right? And once we identify who is rich, let's not apply the reservation for them, even though they belong to socially and educationally backward. Again, there were black clashes. Again, they said SC/STs can be SC/STs. They wanted to exclude out of these whole equations. So there was some discussion. I think even government intervened after this judgment, and SC/STs were excluded from this creamy layer background, because we know SC/STs are the most backwards section of the society. Historically, they were suppressed, right? So that was agreed, and the creamy layer concept was applied only for other backward castes, OBCs, who are neither upper caste nor belong to SC/STs. So that's how the whole classification came to end. So again, such things are happening, that government will go ahead and give 100% reserve. Again, what happened later that in Karnataka, in Maharashtra, few of the governments, state governments, had exceptions. And in Karnataka also there is exception in few departments that it has gone even up to 65% of reservations. But yes, for that they need to get an approval from the Supreme Court or central government. That to go to Supreme Court and give a proper justification why they need a particular uh, job post should have a higher reservation. For example, right? For example, if there's a schools to be established in only the tribal regions, okay, in those tribal regions, right, they're sufficient. They're very sensitive for cultural mix. They're very sensitive cultural mix in the sense they will not allow external people to influence their culture upon the tribal people. But they're not as such opposed to a concept of education. In those scenarios, the government has leverages to give appointment higher reservation for scheduled tribes and scheduled castes. So this is the history. We touched upon Article 15, Article 16 in the context of historical examples. So any questions, let me know. I'll give a couple of minutes. I know it is a very elaborate process. I just wanted to cover from top to bottom so that your concepts get, not expecting to be clear today. In future, you will quite often get into these cases. Quite often you encounter Article 15. Quite often you encounter 16. Reservation is a very favorite topic, right? Supreme Court judgment on reservation, Mandal Commission you will be hearing. You'll be Indra Sawhney case you'll be hearing, right? Usually, if you have any serious aspirant, you will come across these terms at least every month in news somewhere or the other. So for that reason, I wanted to give an context, right? So I'll give a couple of minutes. Let me know any questions. Hope you people are able to follow the story, right? Did I miss anything? There were once in the prelims, there was a question in UPSC. They asked like the backwardness in, as mentioned, Article 15 was based on one, socially backwardness, two, educational backwardness, three, economically backwardness, and it was D like A and B. So answer is A and B, socially and educationally backward. It is never educationally backward. Fine. And Article 16.4, it is not even mentioned. Remember this main point. Not even mentioned social economy. It's only derived from Supreme Court judgments. Fine. All right. I think there's no questions. Let me pick another topic. Fine. All right. So I know that today it was more like current affairs. It's better because this topic deserves so much of engagement. Okay. So if you have any questions later also, you have my email ID. Just shoot an email. Like I didn't understand this concept. We'll try to explain or I'll give you relevant materials where it's really simple to understand things. Okay, but make sure you understand this a concept on reservation very clarity. Very, you should be very clear with this reservation concept. Because why very clear? Because we all come from different caste background, right? We, I don't know, in order there may be Brahmins, some few may be SCs, few may be STs, few may be OBCs. I don't have really idea, right? So we come up with different our own pros and cons. Shed everything away, rely on God, government, Supreme Court judgments are done, and only fill those matter into your understanding. Okay, I wanted to be very clear that that's how you can avoid being biased, right? Don't get biased. Be a citizen of India first. Okay, understand the problems of the poor, understand the problems of the vulnerable, right? And our whole job as a state, working as a state, is to serve the underprivileged. With that mindset, try to understand the reservation concept. Okay. Uh, Fine. Having the alarm set, let's get into the appointment to Central Vigilance Commissions. Typical KPSC prelims type of questions. KPSC prelims, almost in every paper, right? They've asked about who is CBI director, who is Central Vision Commission director, right? Who was appointed. Typical. So Sanjay Kothari, you should be aware. Sanjay Kothari, write somewhere for KPSC aspirants, right? UPSC, they'll not ask these questions. So KPSC, write somewhere about these commissioners. Sanjay Kothari is a commissioner appointed by president, right? A bit about him, he is a retired bureaucrat. I think in 1970s he was IAS officer. So he was retired, right? And he's been appointed. So what it means? Even the retired bureaucrat officers can be appointed to the top posts. So he was earlier a secretary to president, the current president, right? Kovind, I'm not Kovind. He was a secretary, and he was then appointed to the Central Vision Commission as a by president. I'll come to this point later. There was some controversy against this. Before that, let's see what is Central Vigilance Commission, right? Is it a constitutional body? No. right? It is a legislative body. It is a body came up an act. Like there was nothing like Finance Commission is a constitutional body, Article 280. Understand that because it is mentioned in one of the article of the Constitution. That's how it becomes a constitutional body. Central Vision Commission is not a constitutional body because it is not mentioned in any of the articles. It is only through an act or government policy it has come up. Right. So how it was established in 1964? It was established. Why it was established? Because there was a Santanam Committee report on corruption. Right. Corruption is a very detailed topic, again a controversial topic, again a sensitive topic. Right. For example, if you get over aggressive on corruption, okay, in interviews and all, sometimes it might backflash you. You have to be very objective in corruptions, right? Objective in the sense we need to take support of government, Supreme Court judgments again, like religion, what we talk about reservation. Even with corruption, we should have an objective outlook. Objective means what? Objective means based on facts, not your own emotional sentiments. The problem with corruption is there enough amount of movies we have seen in all languages, be it Telugu, Tamil, Karnataka. They go overly aggressive on corruptions, right? And they show government employees or government police officers or like overly corrupt, right? Which is not the case, right? If it was so much aggressively corrupt, right? Corruption like the police officer beating a woman on the road or something like that, right? Putting false accusation on people, putting people behind the bars. Do you really think the India would have developed so far? Do you really think there would have been peace to a section in India compared to our Middle East countries, right? Iran or Syria, right? Is there a peace there? No. But in India, there is a peace amidst all the diversities. Why? Right? Because in spite of this, we are seeing there is a peace. We are seeing their employment opportunities. We are seeing people are supporting reservations, upliftment of people, right? People aren't roaming around with guns and shooting on each other, right? And we're seeing this, but in spite of that, we sometimes tend to become very overly aggressive stance on corruption. I mean, we think that government employees are like superbly corrupt, something like that. There are good people, right? And there are many, many good people. Because of them, this country is running. And we have to have that positive perception. We need to trust the government because we are joining the government, right? And for obvious reason, the government has done many, many good things, right? For our upliftment. We have good educations, good services, good hospital services out there. The private companies are able to evolve, grow, right? The problem is the media, the the movies are picturized because I'm not telling completely blaming them. Right? They also bring about good news also, but they're under pressure for TRP, and the people like bad news. So that's the unfortunate case, right? In WhatsApp, we are interested to see news, right? Whenever you see you can anyone can experience this. Go to a newspaper and see in the news where news shows about something about criminal activities, right? If there someone is murdered, right? Some women is harassed, right? Immediately the attention focus will be on that. We tend to get attracted to such kind of news, not because like we're interested to news, but generally we want that human nature is to feel secure, and when once security is threatened, your whole body will get aligned to such news. Okay, what happened? What's happening in the neighborhood? What's happening here? And if there's very peaceful kind of news, right, or something like a boring kind of news, somewhere the constitutional amendment is happening, right? Then such thing naturally will have an inclination because it is not about threatening kind. Whenever you are threatened, your entire body will respond to the threat and get naturally inclined. So and this becomes a sweet spot for many of the media friends or many of the movies to make, because they get more TRP there. Because it's all about, invariably, no one is doing social service here for free. Right? They want profits. But again, not that they are doing wrong thing. Of course, they are doing right thing. Of course, they're highlighting the wrong happening in the society, which has to be dealt with. But that doesn't mean we should be only focusing on wrong things. Right? We should also focus on good aspects. That's how we have hope in the society. Right? So in that context, we need to understand the government has taken certain steps. Like Santanam Committee was set up way back in 1960s, right, to purge this corruption out of the system. So out of that committee report in 1960, they had recommended to set up a Central Vigilance Commission in 1964. What happened? What is the body set up for? They are not supposed to penalize, right? They are supposed to only inquire. It's an inquiry body, not suo moto, and not suo moto, based on the allegations. If someone has done the allegations on certain officers who has committed a crime under Prevention of Corruption Act, okay, then only they can inquire into those kind of allegations. Allegations against all government employees? No, it's only against central government employees, right? Or against corporations established under the Central Act, or against companies or societies or local authorities controlled by central government. So under these three entities, if there are any allegations in the circumstances, there is a Central Vigilance Commission which inquire into those allegations and provide a report to the government. Got it? So these are the typical prelims kind of questions. Central government, SVC, Central Vigilance Commission is, they can give following options: inquiry body or a penalizing body, right? Have you ever heard Central Vigilance Commission arresting someone? No, but we have heard CBI arresting someone, right? Right. That's the difference. CBI also inquires against corruptions, right? If you follow the news carefully, and they go to the sessions court and they get a arrest warrant against those corrupt employees. But CVC can do that. No, they can't do, because they're only inquiry in nature. Getting it? The difference. All right. So Santanam Committee, their inquiry body in 1954, and the fourth point is against central government, corporations, companies, societies controlled by central government. There's no element of state government here. Read between the lines. There's no element of state government here, and it works under Prevention of Corruption Act, right? And then who appoints president based on whose recommendation? High power committee based on prime minister, home minister, right, and leader of opposition. A related question, peripheral question: do we have a leader of opposition in Lok Sabha in this uh, period? Anyone can take a guess? You can give me answer on the chat. Do we have a leader of opposition now in Lok Sabha? Take a wild guess. No, correct, Ganesh. Yes. No, we don't have a leader of opposition. That's correct. So there is a typical clause. I mean, constitution. I think constitution. I don't know. It's an act or not. So leader of opposition can come from an opposition party only. See, leader of opposition what? Leader of a opposition party. So opposition party can be called only if they have 10% of seats in Lok Sabha. Currently, none of the opposition party, be it Congress, be it Trinamool Congress, be it AADMK, be it YSR Congress, right, have 10% majority. Single party. See, together, if you combine all parties apart from NDP, right? NDP, it is the BJP led government, then there might be more than 10%. I'm not talking about that. Single party as registered in election commission, right? None of the party has. Highest party which I had is Congress party, which is 9.52%. They have 52 seats in this current Lok Sabha. And how many seats we have total? Right? 542 seats, right? 545 seats total in Lok Sabha. In this 52, 545, 10% is how much? 55, right? Almost. Means it can't be 54 and a half, right? 55. So we have 52 in Congress. So it comes to 9%, 9.5%. So less than 10%. So there's no opposition party as of now. And if there's no opposition party, there's no leader of opposition party. This situation, okay, when they made Central Vision Commission Act, right? That time they told president can appoint based on these three high power committee: prime minister, home minister, and leader of opposition. Focus on this. This is a very important prelims question, right? 2015 IAS mains, they asked this question. Who all belongs to the high power committee to recommend, okay, to recommend appointment for CVC director? And this recommendation is binding on president, not like president has a choice to reject. Okay? So who? Prime Minister, Home Minister, leader of opposition is rarely picked as an option. Right? This is the places where you have to by heart. All right. So next question is leader of opposition seat vacant for the first time? I know last time also it was vacant. This time also it is vacant. Question is leader of opposition party was always there before 2000? Any guess? Any guess? Was leader of opposition vacant for the first time, like last time and this time, 16th Assembly Lok Sabha, or earlier also there was vacancy in leader of opposition party? Yeah, you can give me a chat on chat. Let's say what any guess people can take. Okay, so I'll answer that. So leader of opposition party was many times it was vacant. First time for 20 years since our independence, 1947 to 1967, for 20 years there wasn't any leader of opposition party because Congress was dominant, and it's almost like 80 to 90%. I mean, above 90% seats Congress were winning, and there was no any leader of opposition party then. Then question is, if in 1950s and 1960s, it is not that it was set up in 1964, right? Right. It is not that 1964 they weren't aware that leader of opposition party can become vacant. It is not that. It's a recent phenomenon. They were aware because in 19 before 1964 till 1964 also they were aware that leader of opposition party is vacant. So it is vacant, but still they made this provision. This is what is about reading between lines. So that time, if you see closely, if you have any understanding of the history, so they wanted to set up the CVC as an. Were they serious about this? Then they weren't, right? Because Santanam committee report is a public report, and people will be looking forward for the government to implement this committee report. And the committee has set to set up CVC. Then government cannot say reject no, and this is a classic case of colorable responses. Colorable responses means what? You say something, but your intention is something else, right? The government established Central Vision Commission, but your intention was to not get commissioner appointed to it at all. Why? Because there's no leader of opposition party. Getting the context. So these are the very reading between the lines we need to try to inculcate in this journey of understanding this politics, right? Once you understand this politics, right, then it's very easy for you to remember things, right? So for example, you will surely remember this my term, what I made statement right now, like colorable response to Santanam committee report. The moment you remember this history, then you'll try to trace back. Why did I, sir, told like colorable? Because leader of opposition was not there then also, but still they made this provision because they don't wanted to appoint color. So that meant if anyone asks the questions like who are the main committee members to appoint CVC, you remember PM or no? You'll definitely remember now onwards leader of opposition party because you know the history. You're getting it. So now this is what we try to. If you understand the history, you can remember things in a better way. That's what I meant to say. All right. So any other questions? I hope you are getting my current affairs videos upload in YouTube. Right. If not, share your email IDs. I'll try to send. Oh, Yashwant got a. We didn't get or received is it? I think Yashwant got a. Oh, okay. Yashwant, can you check? Is it your inbox or something? I'll stop sharing.